Hi, my name's Tosan Tutse-Tonwe. I've been living in Partridge Place of Patton Ridge for the better part of since 2010. And before that, I lived off of Hawk Run Terrace on the other side behind Goshen, off of Goshen. So before that, I think total, um, oh wow, almost 14 years. As a homeowner, I've been 12 years. It'll be 12 years this year. I view leadership as a service, and it is service. The most important places that we can serve are in our communities and around ourselves. That's where we can create the ripple effects that go further and further out that impact and influence people's lives. So I saw an opportunity to do so right here where I live. It's not something that you necessarily need a an elected position to serve, but it does put you in position to be able to do things in ways and influence growth in community affairs differently than if you did not. Though for me, it's not going to stop anything that I do. A lot of that's going to be the same. I'm working with my community, working with people around me, helping support and come up with innovative programming, things like that. But my interest was to be able to do so that I can influence it from an executive position. Let's say I'm very big on service. I tutor. I STEM tutor high school students and college students and help give them mentorship and guidance for them to be able to reach their whatever goals that they set for themselves or help them formulate goals for themselves. Sometimes, we all knew this when we were growing up. Sometimes we just don't know what we didn't know. So helping fill that gap for them, that's a big one, working with the youth. The other is right on my block, just providing, myself as a point of service. So one thing I do for the elderly people on my section of Spur Hill is I shovel them out when I do my walkway, I do theirs. Just making sure that everyone has um, a sort of a skin in the game when it comes to making the community a better place. And I have to do my part. I have to carry my weight in that. So it's not about what everyone wants to do so much as what they're able to, right? And I'm able to do that, so I do so. And make sure that my community feels that they can come to me in a way that they can get help or they can get support and know that I'm a part of the community as they are. I have a very interesting background in that I've worked in biotech in clinical research, and I was a management consultant, executive management consultant. I've done some of my own consulting as an independent consultant. I've worked in civil service. I'm currently a program specialist with the Montgomery County Department of Health. I have also been a pro bono consultant for nonprofit organizations through the Taproot Foundation, also on my own. I've seated boards. I've sat on boards. I'm currently on the executive board of a couple of nonprofit organizations. The most recent is the Robertson and Sullivan Foundation, which our mission is to increase the profile of rugby and rugby teams at HBCUs across the country. We founded last year, and we have knocked off 3 universities so far and got the men's and women's teams up and rolling. And we're continuing to do so, but charging ahead. Before that, through the Taproot Foundation, I provided executive consulting, strategy consulting to nonprofits that after they have raised their money, typically the threshold is about 300 grand. Now what? What do we do? How do we govern ourselves? How do we plan? How do we go forward? I have about 13 years of experience there. Education wise, I went to Robert H. Smith School of Business. I got my MBA in management, focusing on finance. So between my education, my background working in governance, in public service, and in the public sector, and in nonprofits and NGOs. I think one thing that people may recognize that they remember years ago, about 2014, when we had the whole Bring Back Our Girls movement. So I was part of I was one of the founding organization, one of the founders, the founding members that actually pushed that movement. I've been very involved in not just in community, but global level organizations and NGOs to help put them push, whether it's advocacy for things like human security, against anti-human trafficking, or community affairs like here, tutoring, working with youth, and being a service to my community. Number one priority is understanding how we are going to remain a community as we continue to grow. As we grow, there are wonderful things that come with this, right? There's more revenue, there's more services, there's more businesses and more organizations. All of these are fantastic things, important things, vital things. What's the key will be how the community shapes itself in the face of that change, right? So how the members of the community remain a community, and how we shape that and how that goes forward. So because it's a drastic, almost disruptive type change, it's a ripe opportunity for us to be able to look at that and say, you know what does it mean to be part of the Montgomery Village community? And how do we view the stakeholders who are a part of that and say, okay, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? We can go by age, we can go by profession, we can go by housing status, whether it's rental ownership, et cetera, are they landlords, et cetera, because that all has different meanings for the folks that are part of the community, whether they are renters that may or may not be paying the HOA fees directly, or they are a resident like myself, or they are a landlord who may not live in the community, but they're still paying into this foundation. So there has to be a harmonization of these stakeholders so that they all feel represented. They all and then they all have skin in the game, so that when it comes time for community-related accountability, it's much easier to hold people accountable, hold ourselves accountable, and maintain what that community means and its values. That's the number one priority for me. I'm a big programming guy. I think that programs don't necessarily have to be permanent, but they can, as long as they're sustainable and effective, they do what they need to do, right? So how is Montgomery Village interacting with the community is the real question, right? We're offering things, fantastic. We're doing things. I see them all the time. So how do we take that a step further, right? We're engaging kids by hiring them as lifeguards and things like that. We're having youth events, we're having sports, we're having this, and I kind of had this vision of sort of live, learn, and grow in Montgomery Village, right? So that's what we do at home. We live, we learn, we grow. We live, we have fun, we take care of health things, we play, we exercise, fitness, we socialize, that type of thing. We learn maybe some educational programming, whether it's from youth to professional development level. One of the things I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt and a PMP. I have, almost 10 years experience in each of those. And I'm qualified to teach these things. So offering that right in our community, whether it's supports where they don't have to go to boot camps, in DC or anything like that, let's offer it right here. We've got meeting space, we've got IT, we've got AV. we have the place to do it. And oh, by the way, you can just roll out of bed on Saturday morning and drive down Montgomery Village Avenue, and you can go get some CEUs. These are all things that we can think about. We can take a health approach, health programs, health screenings. Hey, you know what? Hey, get your blood pressure checked. You know, how you doing? A healthy community, a healthier community, right? We have the walking groups and things like that. Hey, take it a step further. Hey, have you ever been checked for diabetes? That type of thing. You can come here and get stuck for the first time, get some education materials. There are companies that do that. We just have to bring them in. They would do it, and we offer it right here. And that growth, how we improve, socializing with nature. One of the things that is another thing on the list that we're going to talk about, right? You know, how do we improve how we interact with our environment? Are there groups that want to help lead that? We can come up with programs for that will improve our relationship with it. And starting with the young. So, you know, a lot of people grow up here and stay here for a while. Let them, that be a part of their growth. So live, learn, and grow in Montgomery Village, you know? So there has to be a mix, right? So community engagement happens a variety of ways: in person, virtually, and other passive means. So like, you know, whether it's circulars, publications, that type of thing. We need to get a sense of what the engagement of those channels are, right? Are we not doing enough in one? Are we doing more in the other? Which one's more effective, et cetera? So there's some of the communities putting up signs is the best idea, right? Signs on community space, notifying them things are going on. Then there's other things that make more sense to be disseminated through social media and the internet or the website. But we have to we need to get a sense of what are the most effective channels for the community. And like I mentioned before about change and the change of the community and the disruptive change, which is not necessarily negative, it's just disruptive, is figuring out how those channels need to change, if they need to change, so that we at best maintain the level of engagement that we have, and we don't want to go backwards. We actually want to increase it. So we got to make sure that we're prepared for that. It takes a little bit of foresight, strategy, planning, and testing, and seeing, okay, you know, where are we reaching our folks? And are those messages getting there? And are the behaviors associated with being engaged, are we observing them when they use those channels? Absolutely. I think that first of all, they were here before we were, so they are part of our community. That's just the reality of it. I think that they present a wonderful learning opportunity. Like I said, live, learn, and grow, right? So one of the things that I did when the pandemic started was I started a garden. And I use that. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so giving them green time, but letting them see and participate and see that, okay, you put a seed in the earth, water and sun, you get something you could eventually eat, or something's going to look like something, or something that lives and breathes, right? So understanding and teaching them about some of our less popular wildlife, insects, and how important they are to our ecosystem and how we need them, whether it's a bee, a mosquito, a tick. All of those things are vital to the environment that we share in this community. And there's a fair amount of green space here. So understanding that we get to look out the backyard, that's a privilege to be able to see a herd of deer. Not everybody can see that. My daughter has a telescope in her room. She can look outside and see the stars. That's not something you can take for granted. So understanding that we are a part of something, the environment is just a part of the community. We can't look at it as something separate. That's a part of the living, learning, and growing, you know? The future it's actually going to be very similar to what it is now, right? A very diverse community with access to wonderful experiences where people can live, learn, and grow, and not really have to leave Montgomery Village for very much, right? Um, Within our boundaries, we have access from everything, including medical care, beyond something that would require acute intervention, maybe short of an urgent care facility. That's the last thing that we would actually probably need from a use standpoint, right? But the future is more about the community. So what I talked about earlier, and that is continuing to shape a community that is representative of where our population is going, right? So as we have more young families come in, we have more families with young children. As children grow up, the mix of people that are in our community are the future. So making sure those people have what they desire and need to live, learn, and grow right here is really how we're going to foster that. So things that we can do to make it a more fertile ground for people to grow in such ways. We have these resources. It's not even about adding resources as much as configuration of what we have to make people aware. Hey, you can do this here. Like I mentioned about professional development, as more young professionals come out this way, because we get more value here than we do maybe somewhere further down county, right? Or people that are older. One of my passions is actually looking at aging in place, which is a very important thing that less and less people can do in the county. I actually pitched an idea that there should be a grant in place for people to be able to renovate their homes if they have a first floor bathroom and den type of situation where their parents can live with them without having to maybe rely on a facility or something like that. It makes economic sense. It makes social sense. It makes sense from a public health standpoint. But that's thinking about live, learn, grow. All happens right here. You don't have to leave. And it starts with your home, the individual home. So can we make that possible as we have more multi-generational households in Montgomery Village? These are all things. The community is the future. We have to look at how that's changing. We have to be engaged and understand how we can engage them so that we keep on the pulse of how those things are changing, so that, hey, we might even be able to shape how things are changing as opposed to reacting to it. If you vote for me, you're going to get a candidate that believes in innovation, that believes in community, that believes in Montgomery Village. Point blank, period. I think that those things there will help guide us through the change. If we have a board of directors that believes that we can live, learn, and grow here in Montgomery Village and we have all we need to be able to do that as this community continues to grow and more people come in and we're building more and we're bringing more housing and units, then I believe that we're going to be okay and we're going to do well. We're going to grow as a community. We're going to improve as a community. And that's what it's about, is building a better community. So voting for me, understand that I believe in Montgomery Village. I believe in living, learning, and growing here. I told my wife I'm committed to being here as long as it makes sense for us to be here. And I see myself being here for a very long time. Hopefully I get to age in place here, but I think I need a bigger house, but this housing market's nuts right now. But I can't do anything about that, even if you guys vote for me. But either way, name's Tosan Tutse-Tonwe. I appreciate you guys hearing me out about my ideas and my thoughts and my belief in Montgomery Village. I sincerely hope that you view me as a viable candidate, and I'm asking for your vote. Please vote for me. If you like what I was talking about. If you don't, hey, I'm approachable. It's all about growth and change. This is the beginning of an engaging dialogue. I'm about engagement. This isn't a destination. This is a journey. So, and most importantly, good journeys have good conversations. So let's keep the conversations going.